Good morning and welcome to everybody. Thank you for attending this morning's virtual Tucson Tech Talk on mining, smarter, safer, and sustainable mining. I'm Jamie Nielsen, the Director of Operations with the Arizona Technology Council. Welcome again. I'd like to introduce you to Carla Morales, our new Vice President down here in the Southern Arizona office.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to today's virtual Tucson Tech Talk series. As Jamie mentioned, today's event is on smarter, safer, and sustainable mining. I'd also like to remind everybody attending today that your microphones will be muted and your cameras will be off, so don't be surprised. If they're not, we'd like to ask you to please do so. For today's event, all questions can be put in the chat area, and the moderator will compile the questions and pull them at the end of the QA session. There are also currently sponsorships opportunities available for future speaker series events and all future Arizona Technology Council events. All of those upcoming events can be found on our website at aztechcouncil.org. If you're interested in sponsoring some of those events, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information will be in the chat as well. At this moment, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this event, Ava Butler, Organizational Development Consultant. Ava, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I am, as Carla said, an organizational development consultant. I'm a Tech Council ambassador and the moderator of today's discussion, and I'm so excited to be here with you all. We're talking about smarter, safer, and sustainable mining, and how Arizona's mining tech leaders advance the global mining industry. A recent report from the Fraser Institute ranked Arizona as second globally for mining investment attraction right now. And part of that is because of our wonderful leaders. And I am so excited and honored to introduce our panel for you today. We've got 4 panelists. Nick Hare is president of Hexagon Mining Division. Dr. Abe Jalbout is the co-founder and CEO of Auxilium Technology Group. Dr. Brad Ross is the director of Geotechnical Center of Excellence at the University of Arizona's Lowell Institute for Mineral Resources. And Claudio Cosio is principal of Stantec's US and International Mining. So welcome, gentlemen. So pleased to have you all here for our discussion today. Let's start off with having each of you provide a high-level description of your organization's solutions in the mining industry. Claudio, you want to start us off?
Sure, why not? Thanks, Eva, for the introduction, and thank you for having me here. Yeah, so Stantec is a full engineering service provider to the mining industry and to other industries as well. But the part of the Stantec family that I represent in mining, we provide mining engineering, consulting services, construction management, and execution support, anywhere from initial exploration all the way to closure. Especially as it relates to technology, we have quite a few initiatives that we're implementing across different projects globally, such as our net zero mining initiative, which ties into the technology and some of the things we'll discuss today, looking at efficiencies and equipment specifications and equipment performance. Thank you for having us here, and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. How about Abe next?
Morning. Auxilium Technology Group, we develop new ways to treat mine tailings, new solutions for the monitoring and optimization of the processing of tailings. In short, tailings are the waste generated after metal extraction. Our flagship solution, Entail, is a circuit that treats and repurposes every component of the tailings, generating products of value such as green hydrogen, purified water, reagents for mining, and our unique geofoams. Why this is important: geofoams can be used as support material for the construction industry and as an insulator, reducing the use of plastics such as expanded polystyrene used in construction, which is part of world emission goals to try to achieve the 2030 targets currently in the world. The worldwide geofuel market is a large one. It's expected to reach over $1.1 billion by 2024. Also, as an effort to advance clean energy, our company has unique capability of energy storage using tailings as a source for green hydrogen generation. And thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you. Nick, how about you?
Absolutely. Thanks, Eva. It's a pleasure to be here. So Hexagon, we're a global leader in sensor software and autonomous solutions, and based out of Sweden, really large company, you probably haven't heard of, about 20,000 employees globally. And so what we do is we take an industry focus in applying those core technologies. And so I'm responsible for our mining division, which was formed in 2015. And our goal at that time was to provide life of mine technology solutions. And so that what that means is from the time you plan, design, schedule, engineering through operations, safety, sustainability, a complete technology provider end to end for all mines around the world. And so pleased to be here today. And I think safety and sustainability is at the top of our mind, just as it is as our customers. And so I think it's a great discussion you have.
Thank you. Thank you. Brad?
Good morning, Ava, and everyone else. I'm Brad Ross. I'm the director for the Geotechnical Center of Excellence, as Ava said. The Geotechnical Center of Excellence is a relatively new part of the University of Arizona. And we're focused on solving really difficult mining geotechnical problems through both research and education. And although I have a small team, we're really effective, mainly because we collaborate and we work with a wide variety of industry experts and people from academics as well as other parts of mining. So yeah, excited about being here.
Thank you. Thank you all for that. Let's talk about health and safety for a moment. Those are obvious priorities for both mining personnel and neighboring communities. What technologies and approaches to health and safety is your organization using, and what are you seeing across the industry? Who would like to kick us off?
Sure. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
No, go ahead, Claudio.
All right, so I'll take the first. So, especially not only within the mining industry, but as I think as the rest of the panel would agree, mining, it's always been viewed as a huge or top priority in the mining industry, or safety, sorry, in the mining industry. But I think more than that, I think in the mining industry, safety has become a value, right? Something that is just forged into us, that it's just part of our everyday lives, even inside of work, outside of work. Some of the things, at least that our industry or that our company is doing, is we're very proud to say we since we think safety all the time, we start at the front end with designs and engineering, and we have several programs. Of one of them that is it's the core of everything that we do is prevention through design, right? So it's identifying those hazards right off the bat. So when they get to the field, that that those hazards are either eliminated or they're reduced, or how do we mitigate them as the construction and the execution process starts on its way.
Thank you. Brad, what were you going to add?
Yeah, no, I think Claudio is exactly right. It is a core value to us anymore. And it's really part of the reason why the Geotechnical Center of Excellence was created. And so we do different types of things. We're doing research right now on one of the largest safety issues for open pit mines, and that's rock walls that comes down from the high walls. It's an area that's never really been, we've been able to monitor very well because it's so random and so small sometimes, but very hazardous. And so we've come up with a new method to use thermal imaging to not only look for the rockfall events, but also the conditions that might lead to the rockfall events, so that we could hopefully prevent them in the future. So we're doing research on that right now. We have a grant through NIOSH that we're doing that with, and we have a system that we're taking to a variety of mines. Is up in Colorado right now working. So finding those new ways, the new technologies is really what we're kind of about.
Thank you. Abe?
Yes, and to build on what both Brad and Claudio said, the main focus that we're working on right now in our company is an issue of international importance in the mining industry, proper processing of the mine waste. whether this be repurposing of tailings, neutralizing effluents, or monitoring these using new sensors. We've used new sensors and developed new sensors in our company as well to be intertwined with mineral processing technology to control and optimize these efforts, minimize these footprints of these different waste. And obviously neutralizing these streams has a direct impact on health and safety for mine workers in these nearby communities.
Thanks. What would you add, Nick, for Hexagon?
Yeah, absolutely. I would echo my colleagues' sentiments, and I think it's demonstrated that it's being taken seriously in the industry by the growth of the solutions that we're seeing in the market. And so from Hexagon's side, where we're really focused is that pursuit of zero harm and getting everyone home safely. And so the three main solutions that we offer in this space would be our collision avoidance, which is machine to machine or machine to people, our operator alertness, making sure that you're aware of your fatigue and if you're able to continue to operate machinery, and then our vehicle intervention to actually prevent and stop. And so we've seen that portfolio grow massively over the last 5 years to equipping over 40,000 pieces of equipment, and by far the most in the industry right now. And so we saw it start out in different regions of the world where you see whether it's driven by legislation or it's by culture, but I think today it's all around the world, which is by the culture and the core values of the industry itself. And so I'm really excited to see that, and it means a lot to us to get people home safely.
Yeah, and that's an important point. It's not just technology or solutions, it's really a culture and a value in the way that you all work. And that means a lot in terms of impact. How about sustainability? What are you seeing in that sustainability means in the mining industry, and what technologies and approaches are you all using in that arena? Let's maybe go backwards. Nick, how about you?
I read an interesting article the other day, which was that financial analysts see sustainability as such a hot topic that those that don't have a good ESG profile will have a harder time accessing capital. And there's actually data to support that. And so I think the market has demanded that we must look at it from a global world perspective. And I think that will drive there. And so everything we offer works towards sustainability in some way or another when you're talking about improving efficiency and when you're talking about improving effectiveness. And so you want to use the least resources possible to get resources out of the ground is, I think, the simplest way to say it. And all of our solutions provide that in one way or another, whether it's reducing downstream costs or whether it's reducing the core operations, whether it's getting a higher yield and optimization. And I think what we want to look at next is actually the tangible results of where you're focused on sustainability and kind of have those scores and metrics coming side by side with it. So it's you start out, you must have a profitable mine, you must have a safe mine, and now you must have a sustainable mine. And I think it's a really interesting trend that's picking up heavily in 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Abe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, building off what Nick said, in terms of the recent interest in sustainability, I think mining companies are aware of these different existing issues and actively seeking to minimize these risks, also from a different value shareholder perspective.
Mm-hmm.
They're heavily focused on reducing these different environmental impacts of mining as the mining industry evolves. And obviously, as Nick had mentioned, given world events, these companies are proactive in the way that, for example, tailings as an example are being handled, as they have a long-term impact on economic efficiency as well as the community well-being and economic sustainability. Obviously, efficiencies in resource consumption, minimizing land disturbance, pollution reduction, as well as closure and reclamation of exhausted mine lands are ways in which a lot of these companies are trying to mitigate a lot of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Brad?
Yeah, so for us, one of the major issues for sustainability is social license to operate. I think it impacts every mining company today, and a lot of that is about perception of what happens in the mining industry. And so we do have large events at times. So a couple of years ago, we had a large event in Brazil where there was a number of people that were killed and had a lot of environmental damage. And every time one of those things happens, it impacts the entire industry. And so finding ways to both prevent and mitigate these large mining events or large geotechnical events or any type of safety event is a critical part. So one of the things that we think is really important is training and making sure our professionals are prepared and understand that the most recent technology, because our technology is changing so fast. The work that Nick and others are doing, we are seeing huge advances, but if we don't have the people prepared, those advances really don't do us much good in a lot of times. And so I'll give you an example. This last year, we saw that radar systems are being used in monitoring slopes. Very high tech, very specialized work. They can do great things, but they're not always used right. So we put together a professional development class last year to start addressing that. We started out actually as a kind of a workshop class. We'd have 30, 40 people in the class. Because of COVID, we actually had to switch that and made it into a full online class that's recorded, really high quality. And we went from 30 or 40 people to right now we've had 250 people last year and 150 people in the class this year. And by training that many people on those types of technology is really how we support sustainability, because we can apply those technologies that we have and the improvements that we're making in much more effective ways. And that helps the entire industry.
Thank you. Interesting. And Claudia, what would you add?
Yeah, I think just to close the topic off, or at least just follow up, but it's hard to follow 3 people, and now I know why I started on the last one. I wanted to be first, but no, but I think I think environmental, social, and governance is it's kind of becoming like safety too in the mining industry, where it's, even though I think right now it's still a priority, but I think it's becoming more engraved as a core value or as part of our culture, right? As Brad mentioned, our social license to operate is very important. The perception to the mining industry, although I think if you're in the mining industry, we occupy a very small footprint if you look, the global market. But it's just that perception with those large events that just, mining is, people think mining it's bad just because of those, concentrated incidents. A lot of the things that we've seen with the mining industry with ESG too is a lot of the major mining corporations are, they're setting pretty high goals to go like net zero emissions by 2040, 2050, depending on the mining company. So those are, they're aggressive goals, but I think that the industry is committed to getting there. And with technology and just some of the things that are upcoming, I think we'll get there. I think it's definitely going to have some hurdles, but it's something that I think the industry is committed to. Some of the things that we're doing internally is, helping this effort is, how do we reduce waste? How do we use renewables within the mining industry and the sites that we operate? How does that benefit our communities? How do we get the communities more involved right up front with, how we do ESG and how we operate our mines? So I think it's really important to have just all those 3 legs of the pyramid and get everybody involved early and setting those aggressive goals. I think they're going to be a challenge, but I think if we don't, then we're never going to meet them.
Thank you. Let me just open it up to the 4 of you. Other thoughts on sustainability, which is such a huge and important topic?
I just echo what Brad said on the need for talent. And I think starting organically, and it's great being here in Tucson with the University of Arizona and having them as a partner, because as Brad's saying, you can develop all the sensors and software in the world you want, but if we want to get to safety and sustainability, that has to be educated either from the beginning or in postgraduate education. So example with that same Brazil incident, from that, we currently have a service center doing total monitoring solutions with over 50 employees, 24/7, monitoring those tailing dams for future incidents. And so to find 50 people with that kind of geotechnical knowledge and to get to where we want to get to, I think it starts at the university. So I thought that was a great point by Brad.
Other thoughts?
I think I would, no, go ahead, Brad. You go ahead. You go ahead this time.
Okay, so sustainability is such a broad topic, right? And one of the things that we have to think about, in my view, is that sustainability also means being able to supply what our society needs today as well as in the future, right? And what we don't think about sometimes is our society is actually demanding more and more materials. You know, if you take a look at copper production and demand for copper, from 1950s to today, we actually produce and we use 10 times as much copper as we have in the past. And at the same time, our society, our priorities around the environment and safety and communities has changed. And so we as an industry have to adjust to those different demands. And it means that we have to take into consideration, how do we work with communities? How are we going to make sure that we have clean water for everybody and power and all these different issues? And so we have to think much more holistically than we ever have in the past. And I think we're places like Tucson, where we have this hub of industry and education and vendors and consultants that are able to work together, is a critical element of that sustainability. And I think we're in a, this location, we're in a perfect situation to make a huge difference in the sustainability area.
Point. I've got a question that came in around what do you think are the sustainability gaps in the industry? And then any other thoughts on sustainability from any of you?
So if it's all right, I'll take a shot at that one. But so there's lots of gaps, and a lot of them are at times how well we communicate, and so that we can actually get the input from our local communities and respond to that in appropriate ways, and so that people actually know what we do and how we do it. I think there's a huge gap on the sustainability side, actually, on communications.
Interesting. Other observations?
Yes, I think it's closing a little bit more, but it goes hand in hand with Brad just mentioned on, just the perception on the communities we operate in, right? A lot of the times, the communities think, oh, here's a bad mining company, taking all this resource out of the ground, and they're not doing anything else, right? And I think the industry has come a long ways where, even at a very early stage, when we're trying to develop or even study from an engineering standpoint a future operation, is a lot of those things like community, environmental assessments, all that goes up front, but it comes back to that communication, is how do we communicate that to all stakeholders? Not only locally, but globally. And how do we help in the change of that perception about mining and how it's done and how it's improving over time, where it's more of a sustainable industry, because we are very committed to the environment, we are very committed to the communities we work in. So yeah, just that's it.
Okay, thanks. Anything, Nick or Abe, you would like to add?
I would think, just kind of back to the comment earlier, so it's exactly what these gentlemen said, which is we need to communicate better, but how do you do that? You need the proof points, you need the evidence, you need the use cases, and you need to demonstrate where you've done it. And so what we're trying to do to help the industry is just help quantify it better. And so if you look at a variety of our different solutions, like we had a project that was working under UNESCO oversight, and so doing the planning that helped them with their environmental footprint, their water and waste management, you can get quantifiable results from that. I think the other area you can get it is if you look at complete mine to mill optimization. And so again, the less resources in, more resources out, you can quantify every step of that workflow as you go. And then I think we can go back to the communities and say, this is how we're doing it better, and this is how we've improved over time. And so For us as a vendor, we're looking at what are the gaps in our portfolios that are being demanded by our customers to help them with that messaging and then help tailor that change management and communications approach.
Mhm. Abe, what would you like to add?
I think everything that was said just is spot on, but just wanted to add that one of the, I guess, specific gaps that we're working on as a company is also building a regional piloting facility to try to pilot a lot of these new different processing technologies that can aid in tailings processing and other kinds of environmental concerns for regional communities. And we want, working together with the University of Arizona and the San Javier site to try to make that a reality. Hopefully solve some of these regional issues, Tucson being a strategic place for mining. That's it.
Great. Tucson is a strategic place for mining. So is Arizona. And don't we produce, did I read the 68% of all the world's copper is from Arizona? Did I get that right?
Not the world's. I think that's probably U.S. Demand.
US copper? That's a lot. Great, thank you. Thank you. In terms of, this is kind of, they're all bundled together, the safety, the sustainability, and working smarter. What are you seeing in terms of productivity and efficiency improvements? I mean, maybe in some of the areas that we've talked about, but others as well. But once again, across the industry and what your organization are focusing on. How about I give that to, go ahead, Nick.
Absolutely. I think productivity and efficiency improvements, I think that's where we started out, and it's in your basic dispatching and optimization. But then something that was really interesting to me is if you actually look at it and you go beyond, we're here to save human lives in the pursuit of zero harm, there is an operational effect that's tied to that. And so if you have downtime from a haul truck having a metal to metal incident or something like that, again, you're losing efficiency and effectiveness there. So it's actually, if you drive it backwards instead of forwards, and if you start with safety, you're driving towards improving the efficiency and the effectiveness, and that's providing the most uptime and utilization of the mine. And so I think it's just like a shift in thinking that we've seen in our own way, starting out kind of from the dispatch and operational side, and then flipping it back to where this is the right thing to do for people, and it's the right thing to do from an operational standpoint for the mine. So it's worked well.
Interesting. How about Claudio?
Sure. Yeah, I think at least from an efficiency standpoint, I think we're seeing, especially as we apply new technologies such as artificial intelligence, automation, on both, surface and underground mines, we're seeing some of that, some of those benefits. But I think we're like the tip of the iceberg, right? There's still so much potential when it comes to improving on efficiency, to improving on, reduction of maybe the footprint we operate, or greenhouse emissions. So I just go back to that net zero mining. I think it's all tied in, right? Because I think if we can, start with renewables, we can continue increasing our technology in renewables, and also just being more efficient on the way we operate our mines from a production standpoint, it's only going to reduce cost, but I think it's also we're going to be a lot more efficient on how we use energy, how much waste we produce, and so forth. I think it's all a downstream effect. It's dominoes effect. I think we start, improving on a little aspect of things, and the downstream effects, which sometimes are hard to be quantified, could be immense.
Thank you. Abe, what would you add?
Yeah, I'd like to add to Claudia's last comment in terms of new technologies and processes. Being able to hedge, obviously, declining ore grades and rising mining costs can ensure stable productivity across different commodities and also geographies. What we've done in our company to that effect is try to implement new sensors and technologies that maximize mineral processing from a basic efficiency point of view, as well as other remote monitoring approaches in terms of how do you make mineral processing more efficient, which in turn has a direct effect on safety and also other parameters which you can adequately monitor. Obviously, the ability to collect, transmit, and analyze these data specific to these processing activities can have a direct effect on health and safety in terms of mining operations. definitely see that as an area of opportunity right now.
Mhm. Thank you. Brad, what would you add?
So I'm gonna address this one not as the Geotechnical Center of Excellence. I'm gonna talk, kind of go to kind of the larger university. So you know, we have become much more efficient and productive as an industry. It's almost unbelievable how much we actually produce today, and actually how low of cost we produce it at. It's nothing short of amazing if you take a look at the past 100 years, and we continue to improve. Technology is a huge part of that. But we've got to continue finding different ways, and education, mining education in some parts of the world is actually declining, and our needs for people and everything is increasing. And so the University of Arizona is actually taking a different approach right now. Instead of declining like a lot of other universities are doing, we're going to expand. We're actually talking about building or creating a school instead of just a mining engineering department, but an entire school that is focused on mining and mineral resources. And that's a huge change, because as a school, instead of we have a lot of different siloed areas where we work on mining. The Lowell Institute kind of brings all that stuff together. But as a school, we'll be able to start doing things such as having degrees, either certificates or minors or even majors or master degrees that are focused on mining for any type of discipline. So if you're a lawyer and you want to get a mining degree, you can already do that, but you'll be able to do that through the school. Or if you're a business major, you're a hydrologist, you're an anthropologist, any of those types of disciplines will be able to have a strong mining component. Now, the reason why that's important is if you take a look at efficiency going forward, it's not just a single technical issue. We have to bring in all different types of disciplines if we're going to continue to advance. And so we need the business people that understand mining. We need the anthropologist that understands the impact of mining to the rest of society if we're going to fit into that society. And so by the University of Arizona actually, building up instead of cutting back on mining, and being in this, as I mentioned, this great environment of Tucson and Southern Arizona, that's where we can make the greatest impacts on the future of mining, the production, the availability, the sustainability, and the safety. And so that's where we're headed.
Great, interesting.
I'd like to add on that, just from the vendor side, the exact same topic, but the other way. So we have employees that are specialists in technology, but maybe they don't have the mining experience. And so we announced last year a professional education course in partnership with the University of Arizona, to year 30 of our employees. And so our goal is to run all of our 1,000 employees in the mining division through this program if they don't come from that mining engineering background. And so what we want to see is that when we talk to our customers, that we're well educated, that we understand their challenges, we understand what they're trying to solve, and we can speak their language. And I think that's only possible because we have great universities here with us and all around the world. And so that's something we're really excited about. I think it works both ways. You can take outside the industry in and then inside the industry out, meaning you can take a miner and you can teach them how to do technology and new solutions and processes and things the exact same way. And so I think that balance is really important for the future where we're going.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts, gentlemen?
I would like to just say that what I really appreciate about Hexagon and what Dick's doing, they're actually partnering with us so that course can be available to anyone. And it's not just an internal Hexagon class. And so that's a really important point, is that this partnership between mining at the university and the rest of industry. And the way that we're approaching things like in the GCE and other things is we actually are using industry experts now to help us with the teaching at a very large scale. And you know, bringing those true experts in all these different fields that would be impossible for any one organization to have, but to leverage off of all of them adds a lot of strength that we don't currently have.
Thank you. And I love that about the University of Arizona and Arizona full stop, that we're doing things that are so exciting and leading edge. Aber or Claudio, would you like to add anything on that
Yeah, I guess
topic?
the only thing I would add is, you know, especially for the audience, it is amazing on, you know, how many just disciplines or types of disciplines are used in the mining industry, right? Anywhere from, you know, of course, mining engineers, geologists, which are the obvious things, but there are, you know, as Brad mentioned, just, you know, environmental scientists, you know, the technology are things. I mean, you know, human resources, community development. I mean, it's not just about the technical aspect, but it's also about just some of the more softer aspects that, you know, that we employ just across the industry, not only from an operator standpoint, but also from a service provider standpoint through the mining industry.
Yeah, I agree. I have a question here that I'm going to try to read. Abe, you mentioned that your company is attempting to turn tailings into a product of value. This is a fantastic advancement and a win-win for the industry, environment, and society alike. Have you implemented your solution in any active mines? And if not, what are the limitations and time frame of being able to do that? Also, you talked briefly about any geochemical limitations that you see in the implementation of these type of solutions.
Yeah, currently a lot of our technologies, we have piloted them in different mining sites. Right now, what we're bringing to the table is an integrated circuit. So right now, we're working with BHP on implementing this project across some other different mining sites. And I think one of the other points that we're also trying to promote as a company is building of this testing site to build on the last conversation in the San Javier site, to be able to showcase a lot of these different technologies, and also for education and training purposes of how tailings processing and the treatment of mine waste from start to finish, including, you know, in our case, we're looking at fresh copper tailings, which contain a lot of heavy water content also. So we're looking at that treatment and showing how these technologies and processes can be cost effective and add new revenues to a lot of these different mining companies. So I think that that's kind of where we're going with this. In terms of limitations, I think that that's an important one in order of communication is one of the issues that were mentioned before, as well as training, right? Because a lot of these technologies are new. And while we, as Auxilium Technology Group, we are a small company, basically when we, you know, through our interactions with BHP and other larger mining companies, it's almost like a blue ocean in terms of what people are doing with these tailings. So it's an interesting field to be in, because it's a really level playing field in terms of what you can do with these different these products of value. In terms of one of our main products, Geofoam, after a lot of different investigation of different products from geopolymers or building materials that you can build from these tailings products, we've come to the conclusion that that's the most economically viable, given that a lot of mining sites are remote. It's difficult to compete in the primary building material space, such as Portland cement and others. So I hope that answers the question and didn't make things worse.
I think it did. If not, the person will add in more. Other observations about tailings, taking tailings into become products of value, or anything else in the industry that you're seeing to take something that was considered waste into something valuable?
So one of the things that we're seeing now is you know, there's a huge need for rare earths in particular, and that's driving a lot of our technology going forward in reality. And we're seeing in different places right now where they're processing different types of things, of tailings and other types of areas, waste areas, for very minute pieces or parts of these rare earths. And so finding ways, you know, I think there's a big piece of our industry that's looking at the circular economy to see if we can find ways to do more and supply all the needs of our civilization and you know, reprocessing tailings and other materials is for rare earths is one of those ways we're doing it.
Mhm. Thank you. Nick or Claudio, what would you like to add?
If you think about some of the kind of high risk situations, and again, what Brad brought up in Brazil before, and just the decommissioning of some of the dams that maybe aren't structured in the right way, and how do you do that, and how do you get there people safely? So I think two areas we focus is one, our total monitoring and IDS georadar sister division, focusing on slow movement and trying to detect what happened in those events that went wrong, and how do we get to a solution that will prevent it in the future. And then when you're looking at moving towards new ways of processing, storing tailings, things like that, then you need to decommission the old ones. And so how do you get close to something that's a high risk area? And so that's where you're using high precision sensors, you're using tele-remote control, a complete safety ecosystem to be able to move on and help this. And so I think some of it's driven by regulation, some of it's driven by new ways to improve, which is also what the colleagues are talking about here. So,
Thank you.
I
Claudia?
guess I guess the only thing I would add is, yeah, especially going back to the rare earths, that we're seeing a huge uptick on, you know, just the demand for it, and a lot of, you know, just potential projects, you know, coming out of the woodworks, because it's, you know, it's being driven by where we want to go, right? It's all tied in with sustainability. It's all tied in with renewable energy. We need a lot of those materials to make sure that, you know, that we're ready to take the next step into into the next phase of not only the mining industry, but just in general, right? On how society, you know, uses or consumes energy.
Mhm. Thank you. Thoughts about technology driving the future? Efficiencies, productivity, anything else that we haven't talked about this?
I think that,
Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I think the one thing our CEO says is really the difference between autonomous and autonomy. And so when you're talking about autonomous and you're talking about moving trucks and going from point A to B and things like that, what we want to get to is autonomy, which is, at first it's that smart assisted decision making. You see this in any industry. If you have all of the data and you have it captured in one place and you're able to analyze it, you're able to use machine learning, and you're able to get to that optimization standpoint, in theory, the workflow and the model updates itself and tells you where's the next place to go, what's the most efficient, how do you get it out, and then you look at your sustainability scorecard and everything from that side. And so if you talk about our 10-year vision, it's that you want to get to the point where it's almost an automated ecosystem with data driving those decisions. And so we're a long way, every industry is a long way from saying it's going to be completely operating autonomy, but there's steps that are being taken every year, and the progress and the technology exponential curve is continuing to go faster and faster. And so I think that's what's exciting to me about technology in mining, but any industry really.
Thank you. Claudio?
Yeah, as far as technology, the only other thing I would add is, you know, the mining industry it's very well known for being fast followers, right? We usually, even large mining companies are typically very conservative on being the first at anything. So I think that mindset is changing a little bit for the good. So we're taking, you know, more of an aggressive approach on implementing new technologies, but it's still a work in progress. And I think we just need to keep pushing for that, because we've seen there's a lot of good things that are coming out of just improving technologies within other industries. So we just need to be more proactive on it.
Yeah, but we do forget though, you know, mining industry has had fully autonomous trucks for a number of years now, and so the rest of some of the different industries are catching up now. Different situation, obviously, but there are ways that we are kind of in the forefront. But there are so many other, we see so many different technologies moving so quickly right now that it is hard to keep up. I mean, we'll take the radar systems that Nick mentioned and such. You know, 6-7 years ago, it was pretty unusual to see a company that would have a radar system. Now it's getting to the point, at least for the larger mines, it's pretty unusual not to see it. And so it is moving fast, and the technology from the vendors that are building these systems, it's kind of like watching laptop or personal computers back in the 80s and 90s. They're changing very quickly, and it's actually pretty exciting to watch.
Thank you. We have a question about, has tech adoption increased due to the pandemic? Are you seeing a faster uptick as many industries are, or no?
I would say from our side, in the beginning, we were nervous, just like everyone. Like, what is the pandemic going to do to the industry? And there was maybe that 1 week period where mines shut down, and then a week later, all governments said they were essential. And so what happened to us was projects still had to continue, but we're operating in 30 or 40 countries of the world. And so how do you do that? And I'd say two parts. Luckily, 2 years ago, we took a strategy, which is we want to be very local to our customers. So the people that interface with them, they are from and sit in the same countries that they are versus one hub around the world. And so we already had people on the sites, but then even then you still had site restrictions. And so we had cases where you might be 2,000 kilometers away and you're using some sort of as simple as FaceTime or glasses or goggles to do remote deployments where you have your customer on site, your experts 2,000 kilometers away, and you're doing it side by side in real time and continuing those projects, because basically what the industry said is we have to continue to operate. And so these capital projects and these improvement projects, they must go on. And so we just found ways to work around it. And then will it continue to drive further technology adoption? I think absolutely, because now that we learned how to do projects from a distance, we can scale faster in the future. And so we're not limited by, do we have a limited number of resources in one area when we're already talking about a resource constrained industry. And so I think that's going to help us go faster.
Thank you. Other thoughts?
Yeah, no, we've definitely seen an uptick on our end as well. And as far as implement technology, some of the things that, that we've been doing prior to the pandemic is we, it kind of ties back to safety as well. We support a lot of our clients on what we call hazard assessments or risk assessments on site to try to identify some of those critical risks that could be, harming to either, to personnel or to equipment. So we have found ways where, we actually done those virtually, right? A lot of our mines now are equipped with, Wi-Fi technology underground or on surface. So we can actually, we're set up where we can do those virtual walks with the personnel on site and try to identify some of those critical hazards and how do we fix them. And so it's definitely evolving.
Thank you. Other thoughts about tech adoption during the pandemic?
So from my perspective, what the pandemic did is made the world a lot closer. It's really common now it doesn't really matter if I'm working with somebody in town or if I'm working with somebody in Australia, I can communicate with them, and we reach out more, we get input from people more. That communications, although it's not face-to-face in person, it's actually much easier than it's ever been before. And I think that ability to communicate and interact with a much broader group of people will make implementation of technology much faster. And we saw that with the class that I mentioned, where we converted to a one-day workshop that really wouldn't you'd really address 30 people, 40 people, to a class that within a year we've had 400 people. So it's a 10-to-1 factor of the impact that class has had.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That changes technology a lot.
I have another question coming in about what important changes do you see impacting the mining industry over the next 5 years? Going beyond what we've talked about so far. Thoughts?
So AI is going to be one of them. We're seeing more and more AI solutions for a lot of different technical problems. And, still pretty small in the mining industry, but I think that's going to be accelerating at a much faster pace.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you. Claudia, what are you seeing or anticipating?
Well, I think, I mean, as we mentioned, I think ESG is going to be a huge driver for us that, it's going to drive technology because it's going to force us to drive technology into the mining industry is just how we operate, around the world and how we just keep those communities and that governance, up to speed. I think that's going to be the huge driver for technology implementation in our industry.
Mhm. And for anyone who might not know, what does ESG stand for?
Environmental, social, and governance.
Thank you. Thank you. Abe, your thoughts?
Yeah, so just building on the other panelists, I think an increased need for base metals, rare earths, and obviously clean green energy is very important for these different mining companies in the next few years. And also from a waste perspective, a lot of regulations regarding the inability to have tailing storage facilities and other things are also something that maybe not in 5 years, but maybe 10 years out, might be something that they need to watch out for. That's about it.
Thank you. Nick, your thoughts?
I think it's similar to what we said earlier, but I think the three things: one, safety or sustainability won't be an option. So access to capital and the ability to operate, social license, all of that, it's not a priority. It'll become an absolute requirement as it is with safety. Safety in the pursuit of zero harm, that's somewhat already there. Let's say it's 60, 70% of the way there, but it'll be at 100%. And so not only, so you have to have a high ESG profile, you have to protect your people, and you have to be profitable at the same time, and you have to return investment to your investors. And so that's where what Brad's talking about is like technology will have to come along, people will have to come along, process will have to come along. It's a full industry transformation, but the industry is driving it itself because the miners, they're the ones speaking this, right? We're just here to support now.
Thank you. And I had a specific question for you, Nick, to talk about your new R Evolution initiative. Did you want to say more about that?
Yeah, sure. Our evolution, I'm really proud of to be a part of a company like Hexagon and to work for a CEO like ours, Ola Roland. So what he started is a side venture, basically set aside from the parent company. And what it is basically putting our money where our mouth is. And so using our technology, making actual investments. And the example I can give publicly today would be the purchase of a solar farm. And that solar farm will be fully automated by Hexagon technology. And the price per output and the return on investment, the point of it is to demonstrate in this little venture that we can outperform traditional methods and we can outperform commercial vendors. And it's not that we want to be an energy company. We're just doing this venture to show exactly that there are profitable ways that you can save the world. And he takes the controversial point of view. The world's ending in 2050. What if we could save it by 2030? And so he created a side venture. He put a fair amount of capital into it, and he said, "Let's just go prove it." And so I thought that was one of the coolest things I'd seen, and kind of a Steve Jobs type moment for him. So I was really proud of that.
Nice. Thank you. I've got a couple of other questions. What mine is in Claudio's background?
So I'll tell you, I have no idea. How's that? It is. We have several images that we use as backgrounds on projects that we worked, around the world. I mean, Stantec, especially the mining side of things. So I think we operate in over 50 countries. So it's hard to pin it down. So we have several images across the world.
It looks like that might be an underground mine where Brad's is an open pit.
No, this is an open pit as well. I can change my setting to an underground mine just for everybody's edification and here shortly. How's that?
Fine. And Brad, do you know which mine is behind you?
So that's the Bingham Pit mine in Utah. I worked there for a couple of years. They had a gigantic landslide. I was actually brought into that to help them prepare and recover from that. I actually wrote a book about it.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, last question with 5 minutes to go. What would you like to see from the Tucson and Arizona tech ecosystem to support Arizona's leadership in the mining technology. And maybe we'll start with Abe.
Right. Well, I think local tech ecosystem is extremely supportive, especially from the Arizona Technology Council, Tech Launch Arizona, the University of Arizona Center for Innovation. I think they're doing great things. I think more events such as this, focus on mining, would be important given our unique geographical location. In my opinion, as one of the most strategic locations for mining maybe in the world.
Thanks. Claudia, I saw you raising your hand.
Yeah, I think, just a broader share of technology that maybe other industries are trying to implement or have implemented successfully, and see how we can apply them to the mining industry. I think there's just too many silos just around the different industries. So.
Thanks. Nick?
I would just say thank you to you and the Arizona Technology Council. I think that's representative of Tucson, and there's many other great groups out there that bring us all together. And I think that's what's unique, and that's what we need more of. And I think that's what will continue in the partnership between the miners themselves, the communities that they operate in, the vendors that support, and the academics that teach us the leading path. I think Arizona and Tucson in particular does that better than most around the world. And so really happy for all of us to be here. And I can't wait for us to get back in person, because I'd love to have hosted this event in our 5th floor event space and get to see everybody and, shake hands and things of that nature. So hopefully sometime in the future, we'll be back to that.
We'll look forward to that. Brad, your thoughts on ecosystem?
Yeah, so there's actually a strong symbiotic relationship between technology and all. So there's a number of people here that are watching today, and what I'd ask is as the University of Arizona goes down this journey of creating this new school that kind of covers all different disciplines and getting things to work together and to make things more efficient, it is going to take all these different disciplines. And so I'd invite everybody here to join us on that journey and be a part of making sure that we have the minerals and the resources for all of us to work in the future.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for this conversation, which has been so exciting. As I said at the beginning, we're honored and grateful for you to all be here with us. And with that, Carla, I'm going to pass it back to you for final words.
Thank you so much, Ava, and thank you so much for moderating today's panel. Fantastic job, as always. Nick, Abe, Brad, and Claudio, thank you so much for sharing your subject matter expertise. We greatly appreciate you presenting the mining industry from a holistic approach. I love that we got to hear about not just the mining industry from the business perspective, but also from the education, environmental perspective. And Brad, I agree with you. I think that we need to do more of these events, and we need to provide this information on a wider scale. So Nick, I'm looking forward to that in-person event, and hopefully you can help us coordinate that in your area. I look forward to many more opportunities to engage with you all in presenting these types of informative sessions to our members and to our audiences. Thank you all so much. We appreciate your time. And for everybody else, for more information about all future virtual events, please visit our website at aztechcouncil.org for more upcoming events for 2021. And we would like to let you all know that we will be moving, slowly transitioning into in-person events starting in July. So that's great news to hear. We're all very happy. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day and the rest of the week. Look forward to connecting with you all in person.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, Carla. Thanks, Ava.
Yep, bye-bye.